Awesome, awesome. Welcome everyone. I hope you're having a good day. I hope you're busy coming into the crazy Christmas season. It's going to be crazy for everyone, but don't worry, we're going to be here with some podcasts for you to listen to. Today's guest is a friend and copywriter, Jody Rainsford. Welcome, Jody. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, good. I wanted to bring you on because, as you said, you're a copywriter. You provide copywriting services for businesses. And I wanted to break down the barriers for business owners when it comes to copywriting and explain exactly what it is. So, but before we do that, perhaps tell us a little bit about your business and how you started it.
Yeah, so my background was originally as a journalist. So I used to be a journalist in like film and TV. Then I moved across to being sort of health and fitness, and then the publishing industry isn't exactly the strongest industry in the world. So I moved out of that, and I decided that I wanted to become a sales copywriter. So very, very specific thing that I wanted to do, and very quickly realized that my journalism skills, although writing, actually bore no resemblance to what I needed to know in order to become a sales copywriter. It's more akin to kind of sales psychology, triggers, all that kind of stuff. So I went to the US. I found a mentor and learned copywriting, sales copywriting there. Started working with some kind of big US clients, a number of kind of health and fitness organizations. Did some work for Tony Robbins' training company as well. So all these kind of things, and kind of big demand for it in the US, not so much of a demand in the UK. So I started the agency Hello Genius, which was primarily designed to bring kind of direct response copywriting, sales copywriting, email marketing to a UK audience, and build a lot of the kind of action-based, conversion-based copy into things I do. I've seen people doing social media, I've seen people writing emails, weren't getting results, things like that. So I wanted to kind of try and help people get more results. So it was more kind of an action focused, results focused brand of copywriting that I wanted to bring in. So that's and I started the agency about 8 years ago. And we've just kind of like grown and been helping more and more businesses of different sizes just try and get the results that they want.
So, how is there such a thing as a definition of copywriting?
Oh, this is the big thing. So it's a weird thing because copywriting is one of those phrases where if you're a copywriter and you start telling people about copywriting, they think it's something to do with copyright, legal. I did a law degree, and copyright was one of the parts of the law degree. So I do know about copyright, but yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. People within the industry, everyone has their own view about what copywriting is and what isn't. I don't think anyone else outside of it cares. But I think there's an important distinction to make, which is probably quite useful when you are like looking to work with someone or looking to learn it, for example. So there's kind of two types of writing: content writing and copywriting. And so I always come up with the definition that content writing is that kind of writing, having been on both sides. So content is that kind of writing that you expect from journalism. So it might be blog writing, it might be writing to get attention, things like social media content. You're trying to get attention, you're trying to engage, you're trying to get people to read that stuff. Copywriting is slightly different in the sense that that there is a purpose to it. There is a sort of a commercial purpose. There is an action that you want to take from it, and so both of them employ different things. A great piece of copywriting should have something that's really engaging, something that should really kind of pull people down. But copywriting, in the sense that it actually moves you to take some kind of action, is the important thing. There has to be a kind of a takeaway from it. And so, I did write a book about this called The Engagement Formula, and it spoke to exactly that issue: the fact that there's a lot of content that people write, and they just write content, but they never ever ask for the sale. They never ask for some kind of action. They never use the right triggers or the right kind of psychological nudges within it in order to do that. And so it's about understanding what to include within that. And so that's the kind of difference. This comes up all the time now that ChatGPT is around, because everyone's saying, well, your God, copywriting's dead and everything. And I think copywriting very much is absolutely fine when it comes to things like ChatGPT. I think some of the content writing stuff, that's where you can use things like ChatGPT much more effectively. It's gonna replace, I think, a lot of content writing, which doesn't kind of like fall over on that side.
It's funny you mentioned that. I was very proud of the blog that I wrote a few weeks ago. It was all about, you see a lot of content on Facebook saying being a business owner is hard because blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
it's quite negative, and I wrote like an alternative version. Being a business owner is hard, but I really enjoy it because of X, Y, Z. And I wrote this blog, and then I published it, and someone went, "Oh, did you write that? Or did ChatGTP?" I was like, "I wrote it. Damn it!" Is all of our personal work now just going to be assumed that
it's really hard. It's really hard. The thing is, what I found with ChatGPT. So I train copywriters now. So one of the things I do is I train copywriters, and one of the things that I integrate into is integrating AI and integrating things like ChatGPT into the workflow. And there's very clear places where you can use it, and there's very clear places where it doesn't work yet. And I'm sure it will work. But things like the tone of voice you use, like your personality, that kind of thing, it's still not very good at replicating that effectively. Someone can very clearly kind of spot that. But that is always going to be the issue. If you write something, I've had people accuse me of using ChatGPT for stuff. Like if I've written something and it doesn't quite sound as something else that I've written, they're like, "Oh, did you write this?" And the implication is that ChatGPT is it. And I'm like, "No, believe me, I did write this."
Yeah, blood, sweat, and tears went into that.
Exactly, I know all of that to have that accusation thrown at you.
Yeah, it was interesting when you said about the UK versus the USA market, and you said like the USA market, business market, is more into copywriters and using them. When you went back to saying, writing something with a purpose, with a sales purpose, I wonder if that's kind of the UK, like the Britishness in us, saying, "Oh, here's our services. What do you think?" Well, then,
no, I definitely think there's a difference. See, in America, they're just not ashamed of marketing. They're not ashamed of talking about money. They're not ashamed about marketing. They're not ashamed about actively kind of going out. There's a certain confidence to all of it as well, and I do think that is lacking in people. People just have a general nervousness about it. We have this situation like, and this happens around email marketing in particular. Like so a lot of those US clients and things, they will email people every day. Every single day, sometimes multiple times a day if there's a campaign. Now you tell this to a business in the UK, and they're like, "We feel bad about emailing once a month." And so because they don't like it. And I think that there is that people take a lot of things very personally about, I don't like email, therefore other people don't like email. I don't like pop-ups on the website, therefore other people won't like it. Instead of just being kind of a bit more kind of hard-nosed about, does this work or doesn't this work? And I think that's the difference. I think there is trying to taking things too personally without really thinking about what is it that the audience wants, or getting negative feedback. Saying someone says, "Oh, I don't like how your sales page looks. I think your sales page is too long." That's a big one that's level for people that have purchased from that sales page. And and I'm like, well, they bought it. They bought it off that sales page, so it doesn't matter really whether they think it's too long or not. It's kind of irrelevant. So it's about being kind of a bit more kind of hard nosed. I think the worst situation that happens, and this is particularly true with email, is that so many business owners are so scared to upset their audience, is that they don't email them at all. For example, they don't email at all, but when they want to sell something, that's when they'll send out the email, and they think, "Oh, just because I'm sending out 1 or 2 emails, it doesn't matter." But because those emails are only sales emails, then they end up getting lots of unsubscribes because they've not communicated with them at any other point. And I think the thing that I wanted to kind of bring is that you can have an approach that isn't just really strongly salesy all the time, but it has to be much more strategic. If you're going to send sales emails, you have to also send emails, a higher proportion of emails that give value, that answer objections, that give.
Oh, I've just lost I've just lost my sound. I've just lost the sound. There you
Can
go.
you hear me now?
Yeah. Give value.
Yeah, so they give value, they answer objections, they talk to the things that audience wants. If someone opts in to something that you want, they are hot, they are interested in what you're doing. They have an expectation that you are going to help them with something. If you don't then email them at any point until for weeks and weeks, and then the only email they get is a sales email, right? What do you think they're going to do? It's almost, it's just the most important email that you'll send is that very first email. And if that very first email is a sales email, is a bad thing. If that very first email comes straight after they've opted in, introduce yourself, explaining what you do, giving them a little bit of story. Like, story is really, really important element to this. Telling them about, and I think it particularly for people in this group as well. Your customers are going to love your stories. You can talk about this all the time. They're absolutely going to love that. So how much of your story you're actually bringing into that? It doesn't have to be sales, promos, things like that. It's about, building a picture, and it's about understanding how do you do that strategically, but also with an eye on how do we get people to take action? How do we sell something to them in the end?
I love the fact that, hopefully we're bringing in words into the dog pet grooming industry that maybe they've never heard before, like nurturing, and I talked about this the other day on a Facebook Live I did, like nurturing your customers. And a lot of people believe that by putting things out onto, they're concerned that if they're really, really busy and they're putting stuff out into the wider world about their business, they're marketing for new customers. But it's like, actually, no, you're nurturing your existing customers. You're keeping your existing customers like happy and informed and part of your tribe, sort of thing, part of your community. And so we're introducing these words into for small business owners that may have never heard of all of this sort of terminology. And
I mean, that's it. Absolutely. There's basically there's four types of content that people should be putting out. So the first type of content is attraction content. So people who don't know who you are, they don't know what you're about, and the way that you attract new people following you, new people interested in you, is especially on social media, is by talking about the things that are important to them, that are challenges for them, that are pain for them, are things that they want, things that you're really doing that. The second type of content is nurturing. So you're nurturing people. They're following you, they know who you are, but you're telling them your story. You're telling them about they're finding out about what you do, what you can bring, how you can help them, and they're connecting with you in different ways. You're building rapport with them. The third type of content is that conversion content. The thing, opt into my guide, have a look at my pricing. I've got an offer on at the moment, that thing, and that should only form a very small proportion of it. There's only be a small proportion of people that probably want that, and you want to put that in front of people at the right time, which is why it's so important to drive people onto an email list. That's kind of really key thing. But the fourth type of content is the content that people don't ever think about, and that's retention content. It's the people who have already purchased from you, that you are continuing to invest time and effort into, to keep talking about what you're doing, to keep telling about the services you offer, to say when you've got new services come up, because those people, again, there's a zero cost for you've already acquired them, so all you're doing then is increasing lifetime value, and they're the best source of referrals as well, and recommendations. And so that is going to be the most profitable people that you work with. So why not invest time marketing to those people, even if it is just a fraction of it, which is why a combination of social, email marketing, all these different things kind of come together.
And that's so true. And so pet groomers generally get really, really busy. Their diaries get packed, and then they'll stop all the marketing activity. They'll stop the Facebook posts because of time. They physically get overwhelmed and don't have the time to do it. And then a few months later, they're like, "Where's everyone gone?"
Yeah, that's always the way, isn't it? That's always the way.
And then they pick up their marketing. They start putting out social media stuff. They get busy again, and it's that sort of roller coaster cycle, isn't it? Where busyness, lack of marketing, busyness but people turn around, they don't quite understand that, or they don't see it in their business.
No, there's a real idea that when you want to make sales, you send an email to make sales, or when you want to make sales, you put a social post on to make sales, and you kind of drive it like that. And that's true if you are in advertising, and that's absolutely fine. You can do that, and as long as you write an ad properly and you've got a good mechanism. But all of those things rely on you having an audience to do that to. It relies on you. There are certain activities that as a business owner you should be doing all the time. And getting people, building your email list, growing your email list should be happening all the time, almost like on autopilot. That should be a kind of a thing that constantly. So that's going to be your best and your cheapest source of leads. I think consistency is the thing. On all the social platforms, consistency is rewarded. So if you can be consistent, and consistency in terms of sending emails, I'd say to people, all right, let's do an exercise. Let's write an email to your list every single day for 30 days. And people are just like, oh God, that sounds terrible. That sounds awful. And then they do it and they increase their sales, to an incredible amount. And then I go back to them a couple of months later. I was like, oh, so how's your email going? It goes, oh yeah, I haven't got as many sales as that. You're like, well, why? Well, because after like 30 days, then I just went back to like emailing once a month. You're like, what are you doing? Like, you've proven that the more you email, the more sales you get, as long as you're writing the right stuff. And the thing is, because of the sector you're in, you have it's not as if you're like in heating or something like that, where all you can talk about is boilers, or accounting is where you could talk about tax and everyone kind of goes, oh, I don't want to hear about these things. You're talking about things that people are really passionate about, that they want to hear about all the time. They're happy to, you've got like a real, a rich vein of content that you can put out, and it doesn't need to be topical either. So, I think dedicating a small amount of time to batching some of that content, and you could do the same with emails. If you can't dedicate time to, say, writing an email every week or something like that, spend some time just writing a number of emails, and put people into a nurture process. If someone opts in, send them like an automated series of emails that slowly nurtures them over a period of time, and then just keep adding emails to the end of that. And then if you have any promotions and things like that, you can send that out as a broadcast email. There's ways of making it easier. The worst thing in the world is rocking up on a Monday and going, well, what social content shall I put out? What do I need to put on socials this week? What email do I need to send? What blog do I need to write? It's the most painful thing. And if you do it that way, that is where you are going to really, really struggle. Even if you can batch it once a month, and schedule it, and then if you do more on top, that's great. But consistency really does pay off when it comes to marketing.
Yeah, I mean, yes, there's different personalities, and you're certainly hitting on a lot of my flaws when it comes to email marketing. I 100% put my hands up. I had a block to email marketing. The block is now starting to become clearer, and I am on the case. And I suppose I was just reflecting on, like, people may be waiting for my next podcast to come out. Yeah. And I think actually people might generally be happy when it comes out, and they're like, wow, I can't wait to listen to it. And I suppose it's the same concept with an email, isn't it? They might be waiting for that next email to drop in so that they can read a bit more, give some more value and stuff like that.
It's really interesting, because I had a conversation with an accountant actually, and they were saying they wanted to kind of grow their community around it. And so I was saying to them that email marketing, because they're existing clients, email marketing is probably the best way to get it. They haven't got a group or anything else like that, so email marketing is probably the best way of doing that. It's again, this is all retention. This is all getting them to talk about. And they were about to reduce the 2 emails that they sent a month down to 1 email, because they would out through not having done any kind of research. They just thought that it was too much. And I said, well, what are in the different emails? Like, oh, one of them was kind of like news, and then someone was like tax advice and things like that. I'm like, well, just think about what your audience really wants to hear about. What do they need? Do they need that tax advice? Are they interested in that tax advice, or do they need something else? And this is predominantly a firm that helps fast growth companies. So the kind of things that they're challenged with aren't necessarily the things that they're things that the company can help with, but aren't necessarily things that they were talking about. So I was like, well, just keep your tax advice and your company news one, but make the other one something that focuses just on them. Don't think about yourself. Don't put any of your products in it. Don't put any of your services in it. Just think about them, right? What is the kind of email? I said the problem isn't the fact that you're emailing. The problem is that you're looking at that email the wrong way. Look at that and think, how do I make that the email they look forward most to in the month? How do I make that like the most useful, the one that they're going to save and they're even going to share around the company? How do I make that so that it's the one that they really look forward to? And when people ask on LinkedIn, oh, who should I subscribe to? They go, oh, you've got to do this email. Like, raise your standards of what you want to do from the email, because people, I have emails that I look forward to reading, and I know that every single one that I get is like filled with gold. And so it takes some effort, but people do look forward to it. And that's the thing. The issue isn't email. People have made millions and millions from email. It's still the highest ROI of any other marketing channel that you can find by a long way. Anything between 20 to 1 or 40 to 1 ROI. So it's not email as the issue. It's how engaging those emails are and how much they meet the needs of how much they entertain. Like, I think there's a lot of people forget that it doesn't have to just be kind of business and this is, these are the products I've got and things like that. If you can entertain people are looking for distraction. They're looking for distraction. They're looking to, talk about the things that they're interested in. They're looking to do, see things that are funny. There's a reason like cat videos and dog videos and things like that are really popular on social, because people like say that you have a wonderful opportunity. The amount of newsletters, like printed newsletters, US companies that basically have a section in it where there's a pet, and they give an update about the pet. And this could be an invoice financing company or something like that. You think, how is that relevant in any way? But there's a picture of a pet in it. They do an update on it and stuff, and then people go, oh, do you know, I absolutely love your newsletter to find out what's happening with so and so every week and things like that. It's just, don't focus on what you're trying to sell or what you're trying to focus on, what they want to hear. And that's the thing. If your audience is interested in rugby, write about rugby. If they're interested in cross stitch, write about cross stitch. Like, write about the things they're interested in, because and there'll be some commonalities between that with your audience.
Yeah, and whilst you're talking, I was writing down some ideas like pet of the week, funny find, puppy of the month, and then you can also invite dog walkers, dog trainers, dog sitters, cat trainers, to guest on your emails and write blogs for you and stuff like that.
People love doing stuff like that. There's so much opportunity. I think there's this idea that marketing is this really painful thing that I have to do. But if you kind of switch it and go like, if I was like a really good like TV channel, or if I was a really good like radio channel, or if I was something like that people want to be really interested, what sort of content would I put on it? What would I want to watch? What would I find interesting? That kind of stuff as well. So if you're finding it interesting when you're writing it and you're enjoying writing it, there's a good chance that your audience will like. If you're sat there going, God, I am so bored with writing this, I'm trying to slog this out, it's a good chance that, and that's the thing, the frustrating thing, you can spend ages writing stuff and doing this stuff and put it out, and then the only comment you'll get is someone correcting a spelling mistake on it, and then you kind of your hand in your head, you go, I'm never doing this again. Doing marketing well, it can be fun, it can be really enjoyable, if you're proud of it, and other people say your customers, your existing customers love it when they see you doing good marketing. That's the thing. They absolutely love it if you're talking about all the things they're interested in, because they've invested in you, they've chosen you, and you're making them look good by making yourself look good as well. So it all kind of feeds back. It makes you much more referable. It makes you attracts more people to you as well.
I think you're right. I think your customers enjoy your success.
Absolutely. They're invested.
Yeah. Yeah, and I speak to a lot of pet groomers sort of day in, day out, and when I sort of say like, how did you get into the industry? They all have a story.
Yeah.
At the moment, it's a COVID story. Normally, I was in a corporate job, COVID hit, and I thought, oh, fuck that, I'm not doing this for another 20 years. I'm getting out. They've all got a story, and these these stories need to be shared with customers, with clients, with prospective clients, don't they?
Absolutely. I think just, there are so many stories. So, there's your story, there's your customers' stories, when they're happy to share those stories as well. There's the story of how your business came into being. There's the story of, how you came up with a different service. Like some people are offering, different things, and how that came about is a story of how you solved a problem for someone, and that problem is someone else's problem that they've got. And so I think telling stories is so important. The problem is that I think people hold this up as I need to be a really good writer in order to tell this story. I need to present it in the right way, and I need to write it well. And a poorly written story about yourself that's raw and honest is always going to be much more effective than something that is beautifully written but inauthentic. And I think this is the issue I have with a lot of like ChatGPT stuff, is that you can tell that it has like zero soul in it. And you can tell the difference when someone has written something, it's raw, and they find it out and they're upset about something, or they're thrilled about something, and I think that makes a real difference. And those are the kind of things that really connect you to your audience. The things that when they talk about, when they have conversations with you as well. The other thing to think about is that I think people have, after saying, in America, they're kind of obsessed with metrics and they're happy with metrics and stuff like that. I do think people get very emotional about, when they put stuff out and people don't like it, or not that many people see it and things like that. If you are consistent and you commit to consistency, you can put lots of stuff out, and there are lots of people lurking. There's lots of people who will never comment on your stuff, will never like your stuff, but they will still read it. They'll still see it. There may be like 5 people that see something of yours, but 1 or 2 of those, it may resonate with them so strongly, it'll be really important to them. And 2 months, 3 months, a year's time, they'll come back and they'll tell you about that post that you did. The amount of times I've put out posts and trying to religiously put content out, and I've asked myself, well, what was the point? Like, no one read that, and then had a conversation with someone 18 months later, go, oh, that post that you wrote about that, it really resonated with me. You're like, well, you didn't comment on it, you didn't like it, you haven't joined my email list, like all of those things, and they've kind of come out of the blue. People just buy it in different ways, and so it's having that consistency so that when people decide to buy, you're there in front of them. You've got the right range of content so that they know what you do, they connect with you, and equally important is to repel the people that aren't right for you. If you offer premium services, and you need to talk about those premium services, you need to put that across in terms of your brand, things like that, in order to make it clear that what you're about, your brand, is kind of an important aspect to this as well. But just having that consistency and telling those stories. When you start telling stories, then other people will want to share stories as well. And I'm sure that you hear stories all the time, like literally every time the pet the owner comes in, there's stories to be told there. You probably can't share some of them, but there's probably lots that you can share,
like the funny objects that dogs eat.
Oh my goodness! Like, we've just got a puppy, and I've had to record downstairs as opposed to in my office because he's constantly needing to go out and stuff, and it's just like having a baby in the house again. He's going through, he's 5 months old or whatever. And just, we go out and he's like a little celebrity. Everyone's got their stories about what happened with their puppy at that. Everyone's got their advice. There's been some terrible advice. There's been some good advice, but sharing that stuff, there's so much to talk about. And that's just from like little conversations we've got out. And it's the same. People love talking about the things that they love talking about.
Yeah, and something I work with my clients about when it comes to social media and marketing is, to come away from that, we're going to get, well, I didn't get an instant result from that post. I didn't get a sale from that post, and it's just not about that, is it? And another way to perhaps alleviate some people's worries or fears or concerns is just put something out. And for me, if it helps one person, that's job done.
Yeah.
If I can just reach one person and help them, that's all I want to do. So I set my bar low.
No, I mean, it's really funny. It's funny how inconsistent some people are. So, people will so like, you know, all those like micro publishing things. So, you know, you get like a local booklet, a local guide or something like that. So people will advertise in those for months and months and months without getting a result and have no problem with it, you know, whatsoever. You know, and they'll say, oh,
Spend a
you know,
lot
it
of
takes
money.
it'll take 6 months, you know, because the media salesperson go, oh, it takes 6 months for them to kind of recognize it and stuff like that. Whereas actually, you know, you should be getting a result on the first time that's published if you've written that ad in the right way. But they won't do the same with their social media. Like, you know, I'll put out I'll put my social media post, or I'll start emailing, or I'll start doing that, and I don't get any results from it. Like, I expect the results from that. So why do you expect the results from that, but not from that? And so, and it's just the difficulty, I think, is as well is because if you're using social media and you're on social media, there's other people that there's a real sort of comparison element, isn't it? People are killing it on social media all the time. There's other people that are so successful and things like that, and they don't ever talk about the consistency that they've had to put in, and you know, like growing a list, growing your subscribers, growing an audience. These are all really hard things to do. People, you know, when people go, oh, you know, just put an offer to your audience and do it in this way, or use this piece of technology, or something like that. That's great, but what they're not saying is that they've spent 10 years building that audience. They're not, you know, and you know, all of those things are great if you've built that audience. And so, and that's exactly it. You know, you building an audience, it's one person at a time. It takes one person to resonate with what you're doing, to make the decision to, you know, follow you, subscribe. And so, you know, being authentic and having real insight and connecting them with you, and then, you know, feeling that you can help them as well is really important. Like, just having that thought, is this helpful? You know, would I have liked this information when I, you know, if I didn't know where I was, and thinking about where, you know, what different stages are people at in terms of understanding what you know, what their pets need. So you know, it's about putting out content that you are happy with and that you know can make an impact. And like you say, people don't always feed back. And when people do feedback, there's always people that feedback in a really negative way and things like that. And, you know, I do think, you know, this whole thing, isn't there, about, you know, you haven't made it until you've got your first hater. And, you know, but at least it kind of shows that you're putting stuff out in the first place, which is kind of comes with the territory.
Something you reminded me of, the guy behind Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett.
Yeah.
I've been listening to his book, and he's exploded into the world.
Yeah.
But he's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, he's been a business person and had businesses for since he was 18 or maybe beyond there. But now he's the sort of the face of, you know, W.H. Smith's, his books everywhere and everything. Yeah. But it's that time, isn't it? Time in the market.
Well, and that's the thing, and so I think that's a really good point about Stephen Bartlett, because I think people want to follow the success of something like Stephen Bartlett, but you need to think that what he's doing now isn't what he did to become as big as he did. So you'll look at him now, go, oh, he's posting 5 times a day on different social media things. He's got a podcast, you know, he releases different podcast episodes 3 times a week. You know, you know, my team did an analysis of what he does now compared with what he used to do. And so, yeah, the things that he did now, he does now. It just, if you copied that, that's not going to get you the success that you want, because he's at a different stage. He is building his personal brand. He's on Dragon's Den. He's doing all of these things. You know, you need to look at, you know, what did he do back then? And it was much more hustly. It was much more, you know, dragging people through the mud in order to get them to do things. You know, it's this idea that you can take the success of someone now and think, oh, that's what they're doing. It's like people that try, you know, Mr. Beast, for example. You know, try and follow what Mr. Beast it does. I mean, it's kind of impossible because the amount he spends on his videos. But, you know, trying to copy what he did now compared with, you know, he spent 10 years, you know, 12 hours a day, trying to find the best way, you know, just working through the algorithm, working through what worked, you know, developing that huge amount of knowledge, that real mastery of it. And so, you know, and that's put him so far ahead of everyone else. It's kind of crazy. And so I do think that there's a tendency to look at people's success and become really discouraged because, you know, they're not telling the whole story. I mean, like someone like Mr. Beast does tell the whole story, but a lot of people don't tell the whole story about it, or they make it seem really simple or things like that. And actually, it's consistency. It's all consistency is the big one. If you can just keep putting the right type of content out. It's, you know, consistency and really understanding who your audience is. So, you know, putting out lots of content that isn't right, you know, and we're seeing that now. There's it's being flooded with, you know, AI content. But there's a real opportunity for, you know, personal content, stories, content that really resonates to a very a specific target audience, people that, you know, really connect with you. That stuff's going to really show up in that kind of sea of really generic content that's this like tsunami that's hitting us now.
And this talk, I mean, this is like a mini masterclass on content and marketing. It's awesome because, you know, lately there's been a lot of people posting into the group saying they're worried about how much competition there's around. You know, this is what you need to get hold of. Like, this is how you sell yourself. You set yourself above the competition, don't you?
Yeah, you just don't. The thing is, you don't worry about the competition.
No.
That's the thing. Don't worry about the competition. Like the thing is, you have got a story. You have got a brand or something that you want to do. The problem is, it's really funny is that people go, "Oh, I'm really worried about the competition, and now I'm going to go and do what everyone else is doing." Like, that is not what you need to do. You need to just think about, like, what is it that makes you different? What is it that you bring? Is there, you know, and think about, you know, and this is where words become important, but think, you know, be kind of really meaningful. People go, "Oh, I offer a personalized service," which is like one of the worst phrases in the history of phrases. You're like, fine, okay, but what does that mean? Oh, we're independent, right? But what does that mean? Like, all of these phrases that you see being used in the industry, or, you know, whichever industry you're in, like, why, you know, explain to the customer or the person, like, why they should choose you. Because, you know, if you're online and, you know, just think, I mean, if you do something as simple as you know, do a search and see, you know, who comes up on the first page of Google and whether you're there. Like, what do all the other things say? What do all the other, you know, people say? If you, you know, if your competitors and other people have email lists and everything, you sign up for those email lists. So a good thing that I learned from Jeff Walker was, if you're doing a lot of email marketing, what you want to do is you create a separate email account, and then you sign up for all your competitors' emails, and then you get them into that. So you have an inbox full of what they're talking about. And so you just know that you need to make your email stand out from those ones and be completely different from those ones. And so it's a really good thing. So just doing something as simple as that, I mean, that's a kind of a little like masterclass in brand, you know, very kind of like a very simple level. But it's creating that contrast, but using what is different about you, what is special about you. And it's going to be your story. It's going to be your approach. It's going to be the things that you are talking about that's going to be different. You know, competition. If people trust you and build trust in you, you don't have competition. Unless if people buy on price, and that's what you've decided to compete on, then that's a different story. But if you build a real connection with them, and, you know, you're speaking to them for a long time, people will stick with you. This is one of the things that I talk about in my other book around brand identity. That you know, kind of brand identity, brand loyalty, is that it is kind of dying, that people are much more willing to kind of like swap between things as well. So actually think about what does, you know, what is it that you offer? What is different about you as a brand compared with someone else? You know, what do you kind of stand for? What do you stand against, as equally as important as well? And, you know, and being afraid to kind of call out things in the industry. And, you know, something people are very frightened of is saying, you know, that is bad practice. Like, I don't do it. I do it this way because that way is the wrong way. Or I don't believe that we should do this. I think we should do that. Like, people aren't willing people are willing to do that, like internally, you know, within the industry and stuff like that, but they're not necessarily. And your audience, you know, they don't necessarily have that context. You have to lead them all the way. You have to tell them, why is this important? Right? I'm independent, and that is important because it gives you this, this, and this. You know, I do it this way, and that is important because of this, this, and this. And people need context, people need leading, people need educating. And so the more that you do that, the more that you help someone get what they want and understand their buying decisions and help inform their decisions as much as possible, the stronger a connection they're going to have to you, and the greater trust. It all comes down to trust, and whether they like you as well. And that's kind of a key thing.
One thing that pops into my head when you were talking about this was, and you'll see it on loads of different pet groomers Facebook pages, is we are a one-to-one groomer. That is like the buzz phrase.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Many pet groomers. We're a one-to-one groomer. But I actually go out and say, have you actually asked people what they want? Do they want? Do they understand what that means?
Yeah.
But we just grab this phrase out of the air, not out of the air, but we grab this phrase thinking this is what people want. This is what my customers want. But we don't know what they want because we don't go out and ask them.
No. I mean, that's the thing. When I finished up in journalism, I started working for a little bit helping my dad in his business. He had electrical engineering, electrical contracting business, domestic and commercial, and that was a really interesting industry because there's a lot of language that they use all the time, really old, outdated language, like free estimates. You're like, what? Of course, like who expects to pay for an estimate, like for a quote, like why are you still saying these things, and just some of the language that they were using, and not explaining what it means, and you're like, this doesn't make sense anyway, and everyone else is using the same language, so and there's a safety in that as well. And and I think that thing with that one-to-one thing is like, what are the assumptions that people have? Do people assume that it's going to be one-to-one anyway? Or if it's not one-to-one, like what is the alternative, and why is your way better? And I think that people are becoming much more they require much more information before they make a buying decision now. They require much more information. In the past, if someone wanted to buy something, they would pick up the phone and start having a conversation with you as a business owner doing it. They don't want to do that now. They are happy to spend as much time on their phone, looking at Google, looking at reviews, reading your website, going through your social media, doing, reading around you before they'll ever put their hand up and say, I'm interested in it. So the question to ask is, are you providing enough information for them to, really find out what they need to know from you? What is it that they need to know? What are the questions that they are asking about you that you are not answering at the moment? Go out and create that content. And the best way of doing that is to, when you get on the phone with them and they're asking all these questions, write down those questions. Like, what is it? When someone inquires, are there common questions that keep coming up? If they do, go and make a video about it, go and write a post about it, go and do that, because they've not got that information from the website or anywhere else. So like there is, all the kind of clues are there as to, if you're struggling to come up with content, you're struggling to come up with those things. If someone signs up for your email list, maybe you're given a guide or something like that, or they inquire and you want to send out like a series of emails and everything, answer objections in those emails. Make the buying process smoother for them by giving them the information before they ask for it, because they're asking those questions in their head. A really good exercise is to kind of go through and think about the different stages of buying, and like, what questions are they asking? What are they thinking? What's coming up in their mind before they ever vocalize it? And when you start doing that, you'll see where there's kind of gaps in your content. You'll see where you've written loads, but you've not maybe written as much. Lots of people write a lot of stuff around the when it comes to the purchase decision. Sometimes people don't know whether certain things are right for them. They don't necessarily even know between different solutions. They don't know why. Helping someone make a buying decision between you and someone else, if you could give them some criteria, questions to ask, things to people will always default to price if they don't have enough knowledge to come up with another criteria. So give them some more criteria. Say, like, these are questions that you need to ask your pet groomer. These are things you need to look at. Do they have this qualification, that kind of stuff? Because if you're then getting them to ask that, and your competitors haven't got it, there's only one place that they're going to come.
Yeah, I love it. And this is all sort of training that we give my clients, and they're going out there now and they're digging into these clients, and they're not just saying yes to them. Yeah, we can groom your dog. It's like, what do you want? What is your dog? How does your dog behave? Being enthusiastic, asking all these questions.
Yeah.
What I was going to ask you, your opinion on this prices from. So people quite often say, well, all my prices are from. What's your take or your opinion on that phrase, or that using that?
I don't think this.
I always say that people don't hear the from.
No, that's the thing. That's the thing. So they will automatically go to that point. And I do think that there's a thing, because it is anchoring. So like one of the elements that will always face is that if you put a price there, that's the thing that everything else you say after it will come from that price. And so it's almost it's a difficult thing to come back from. And I can understand, people, I think you just have to make a decision one way or the other. You either put your prices online and you're upfront about it, and you do it unashamedly, like, these are our prices, we're happy with it, we'll defend it, it might be more expensive and everything, but and we have a confidence about it, and you just got to make sure that you're confident throughout, and you do that, and everything about you and your brand has to reflect that, or you don't put your prices at all. I think it's a challenge if you're putting it from, then there's always going to be that thing of, you're going to have to work extra hard to convince them that they need those other things, unless you do a kind of a Ryanair style thing where you have a price and then there's add-ons and other things as well.
And not many people like that, do they? Not a lot of people like you pay. Well, you said it was from 50, and now I've got to pay this, and then I've got to pay that, and then I've got to pay this. And
no, but I think if you do it in the right way and you set it up in a kind of a premium way, you can, I mean, even the way that some people talk about what they do, you can turn a service into something that sounds wonderful from the pet's perspective, and I think just using technical language is fine, for you to understand and things like that. And if you have a highly sophisticated audience, like people who really they kind of, I know that I need this and this, and they want that, but you're always going to have an audience that may not necessarily have that level of sophistication. And so when you're talking about grooming in other contexts, and the outcome for the pet and other things as well, I think there's an opportunity to really kind of lift it. I always use an example when I'm teaching about copywriting. I put 2 plates of fish and chips next to each other. And on one, it's like fish and chips, £3.50. And on the other side, it's, hand caught loin of cod served in beer. What's it called? Beer batter with, twice cooked chunky chips and a side of, and at £11.50. It's like the same product, but, you've added a little bit of story to it. You've added some value to it. You've presented it in a way that meets what they expect from it in terms of value, and so you're going to get more from it. And so it's thinking about, how do you just present the offers that you have in a way, sometimes packaging things up in a certain way, adding things together and presenting it in a certain way, you can raise the value of it because of how someone feels like what they're giving their pet, or they feel about the way that it's presented. It doesn't necessarily always, when you're doing this well, the value that someone feels, they're happy to pay higher prices. Like you shouldn't necessarily, I think you can upsell people by making them feel good about choosing those upsells, rather than going, if it's basic stuff, things that you'd expect, to add on to it, then or it's almost better to have it at a higher price and then say that you're adding in 2 or 3 other things to that, because they feel like they're getting something. I think anything where they feel like there's a price and they've they're missing out because of some like slight of a phrase, then that's an issue.
See, I'm really hoping that people are listening to this and they are picking these gold nuggets out of this podcast, this live now, because what you just did there is exactly, I get a bit of pushback on this. So people say, well, people say to me, they won't pay a higher price, they won't pay more money. And I'm like, well, how are you giving those prices out? And they're like, well, I'm text messaging them, or I'm sending it over Messenger, or I'm emailing them back, and I'm like, no, they won't pay anymore, because they're getting the fish and chips for £3.50.
Yeah.
Whereas if you get them on the phone and give them some enthusiasm and ask them lots of questions and describe the beer battered loin of cod with the double fried chips and the mushy luxury peas for £11.50. Oh, my mouth's watering now. That's
exactly. I know, that's the thing. You're engaging the sense. But I think about this. Right, I took my daughter to Harrods. I took her to Harrods when she was really small to see Father Christmas, and the grotto was right next to their grooming parlor, and they had the price of the grooming, the things on there, and I can guarantee you that the quality of that grooming in there is probably not that much better than the quality that most of the people in this group can offer.
Yeah.
How do they get away with charging 10, 20 times the amount for what they're offering? It's because they have a brand. It's because you expect it to be expensive there. It's because all of those things. And you might be going, oh, well, I'm not Harrods, but why? Like, why not? Why can't you offer a premium service? Why can't people? The thing is, it's about identity. Like, when you're dealing with something someone cares about, it's identity. If someone feels it's the difference between buying like a knockoff pair of Ray-Bans and some real Ray-Bans, a knockoff Louis Vuitton bag and a real bag. When you've got that real bag, you feel different about it. You feel as though I've paid that money. There is something different about it. If people, you're in the kind of industry where the more someone invests in something, the better they feel about themselves, and the better they feel about their relationship with their pet. Like, you have there's a real opportunity to build some really kind of strong premium brands here, where because this is getting bigger and big. This is like growth, is it? Like, this is the growth industry, isn't it? Like, this is just a huge opportunity here. And so people feel good about themselves when they invest and they spend money on these things. Not everybody, but there will be people who do that. There will be people who want to spend more money because they care more about, they feel like they have to have this expression about how much they care about their pets.
Or they feel that by spending more money, they're caring more about their pets.
Absolutely. And they want other people to see that they're spending. If in your area you're the most expensive pet groomer, and you look the most expensive pet groomer, and you look premium, things like that, and then when people say, I know people who they're terrible at training their dogs, and they've sent it to, I can't remember what the name of the dog whisperer or whatever it is, I can't remember what it is, but they have sent their dog to that person, and they will tell everybody that dog has been sent there to it, because what does it show? It shows that I am incredibly, well, it shows that you're not very good at training your pet, but it shows that I obviously care so much about it that that I'm willing to kind of spend that amount of money in order to get the result I want, because I care about my pet and everything as well. There will be people who will spend that, and you'll always have people go, oh, there won't be people in my area, not in my area, not in things like that, and that is never true. That is never true. The problem is, and you've probably experienced this, and this is really funny because we talked about mindset in terms of marketing, is that normally it's people's own because this isn't just about marketing stuff and writing stuff. This is also about making offers and building value and anchoring pricing and things like that. And the thing that gets in the way is people's money blocks, people's money mindset as well. Like, I don't like this marketing, therefore other people don't like marketing. I wouldn't spend that. I know how much it costs. Other people look at it. So, and I think because those two things are wrapped up, I think that is why we have such an issue in the UK with things like marketing and putting out offers and offering these premium brands and things like that. So I think all these things are tied, but that's not my area. That's your area to help people with.
It's just fascinating though, isn't it? Everything, all these points that you've been hitting on, I'm just like, yes, this is it. And I'm sure you cover. I just cover the pet grooming industry, but you must cover so many more industries. And do you see the same issues with small business time and time again?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's always an issue. It's like, people putting their their own kind of beliefs in front of things. I've had people spend huge amounts of money with me to create like a huge amount of content and then never use it, because they've just got in the way. They've panicked at the last minute, and we're talking about like tens of thousands of dollars, but they've just panicked at the last minute and they've decided that, it's not going to work. You're like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? This is crazy. But just people get, because the thing is, when you go out there, when you put something out, and I think this is the struggle with people on social media and stuff like that. It feels like there's a piece of you out there. It feels like you're told to be authentic and personal, and you don't want people to judge you and everything else like that. And I think there is that element to it. you have to almost be slightly focused on just going through the process. This isn't at the start results, ignoring the results, ignoring kind of the feedback, just going through the process. Am I being consistent? Am I putting this stuff out? Am I delivering the right type of content? Am I consistently getting testimonials? Am I consistently asking for testimonials? I think it's just, you kind of have to get your head down, follow the process, keep going through the process, and then you do see results. But it is a long-term thing to do. Some people absolutely love marketing. Like I love like doing marketing. I love like marketing things. Like I don't get bothered by people like making negative comments or looking stupid or things like that. But not everyone does love marketing. But when it does work, and when you're doing it well, and people are feeding back on it and saying they're looking forward to the things you're writing, or they absolutely love your posts, or things like that, it does show that you're hitting something, that you're achieving something. But you do need to be consistent in order to get to that point.
Yeah, and I think you've got to be happy with, not happy with upsetting people, but be happy that not everyone's going to like what you do.
You have to be kind of neutral. And that's the thing. I think people just are very happy to keep changing their mind about what they're doing, and they'll listen to people who have not ever done this stuff before as well. Like in marketing, it's like everyone has an opinion. Like, it doesn't matter whether if I go into a business and I've done marketing, it's just, the finance director's got an opinion on, how something looks. I'm not going to attack any of his spreadsheets, but for some reason, he thinks he has some like kind of expert guidance. And the way that you deal with that, and the way that I always deal with that, is I say, well, let's just test it. Let's put those things out. Let's see what happens. Let's see how it goes. Let's see if there's any pushback on it. Let's see if anything like that, or let's see if it gets results. And so, I think stick it, creating, and this is why it's quite useful if you can batch it when you can. So if you have a strategy, and normally I think from a marketing perspective, say a quarter is quite a good period of time to kind of think about and go, look, let's go and spend this quarter with a focus of growing the email list. Let's get as many people onto the email list as possible, and put that as a focus. And then, you've got each month to maybe try 3 different things to do it, and just focus on that and see how that goes. And then, you're going to gain enough knowledge. And the problem is that people just go, I want to, get this many customers, and I'll grow my email list, and I want to try and, get 57,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I want to do this, and I want to do that, and all these other kind of things. But I think if you have like more of it, if you haven't got time and you haven't got a team, just have a more singular focus, get it all done. And then I think the thing is, if you can batch it, and then you can you schedule it, it's like you remove yourself from it. You don't have to look at it. You can look at the metrics afterwards. You can be much more divorced from it. I think, if you're there every day going, I need to write something, and then you go onto social, and you've got like 5 negative comments, and you're like, oh, should I really write that? And then you're changing your mind, and it kind of goes all over the place. And that I think that's why it's just, if you get emotionally involved with what you're putting out, then I think that's when you start being inconsistent and changing things.
I'm a very spontaneous poster, me, but I'm working on being more planned and more strategic.
Well, I think considering like the industry you're in, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But what I would do is that sometimes you're not going to feel spontaneous. Sometimes you're not going to have like, if you like, people like taking pictures of, customers coming in, all that kind of activity, but sometimes that's not going to happen. So what's a better thing to do is to say, okay, I'm going to have a baseline of content that I'm going to put out, and that's always going to go out. If I can add more to it, spontaneously added things in, opportunity, things like that, I can do that on top. But I know that I've always got that baseline going out, and that's always going to be there. And so even if I don't post, it's not gonna impact me.
I'm very this has been amazing, this chat, and I'm very conscious of time. Do we need to have a part 2, because we've not even touched on
awards? No.
Awards. We've not touched on website building or website writing.
No, I'll come back and do a second one. I'm absolutely delighted to do that if you want to carry this on as a second part.
Yeah, I had no idea that we'd go so deep into the marketing and everything. And it's been fantastic. There's just been some real sort of golden nuggets that hopefully people listening will pick out and start to retrain their brain or think about things differently.
Yeah, I think it's like marketing. We talk about marketing muscle. Like it's one of those things that you train. You either, you kind of get into the kind of the groove of it, and then you start understanding it, and you start doing it, and it becomes, because it is the thing that will then take your business further. Like it's the thing that at some point you are going to have to master this. Like, the idea that you're going to hire a marketing, that you can avoid it, you can hire a marketing team. Because even if you do hire a marketing team, if you're going to hire a marketing person, you go hire a marketing agency, or even if you work with a copywriter or something like that, you still need there's some knowledge that you need to know before you do so. Like lots of people go, oh, I'm going to hire a copywriter, and then they go to Fiverr or do it, and they hire a copywriter to do stuff, and they get something back, and they go, I don't know if that's any good or not. You're like, exactly, that's the thing. So you need to have a kind of a sort of level of knowledge so you can provide enough oversight and understanding to make sure that you're getting that. So developing some mastery of this is really important, because eventually, if anybody, whether you want to grow your business or anything, then that's going to be the primary thing that you're doing, is going to be marketing your business. You might have people then underneath you who are doing the grooming and other team members and things like that. So it is worth developing an understanding of it and starting to put it into practice, so that you're looking with a view to the future.
Well, I think that's a really good place to end part one.
Brilliant. No, I'm very happy to come back and talk awards and everything else as well.
Yeah, it's been an hour already, an hour of like pure gold. So we'll leave it there, and then we'll have you back on, and we'll talk about website copy and engaging a copywriter, and then writing awards as well. That'd be awesome.
Perfect. Brilliant. I look forward to it.
Excellent. Thanks for your time, Jody.
Thank you.